Welcome to Not Just Ads, the show where B2B brands discover how creator-led content drives pipeline, builds trust, and grows long-term brand equity. Each episode, we speak with business leaders, founders, and creators who are defining their categories. I'm your host, Marcus Sherwin, and this is the Creator Economy for B2B. Great. Welcome today to Not Just Ads, the Creator Economy for B2B. I'm delighted to be joined by Xenia Sapanidi, who is the head of growth at Logically. Xenia has a very broad experience in marketing and B2B marketing in particular. Previous to this, she was head of demand at Strategic ABM and has worked across a number of leading marketing roles throughout her career. Xenia, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you.
Thanks, Marcus, for having me. It's great joining you.
Great. Well, maybe we'll backtrack a little bit. Off air, you were telling me that you're originally from Greece, but you're based in London now. Maybe you can just tell me, like, how did you get into marketing, and from moving from Greece to London, and maybe you could just give us a little bit of a recap there in terms of how you got to where you are today.
Sure, yeah. So depending on how early you want me to start, essentially, like, I always loved psychology and art, and my parents were like, no, don't go into psychology or art. You're going to be super poor. So I found essentially marketing as like the implementation of both. And this is why I got into it. So I studied in Athens marketing and communications at the economics university. And then when I was finishing, my last semester was in Prague, and it was exchange and etc. So I went back to Greece, and I really hated it. I didn't want to stay there anymore. So I was looking for my next place, and I just chose based on like where do they speak any of the languages I speak. So I was like, oh, I liked London when I traveled there. It was also quite like it was May, and usually in May we have really good weather in London. It's sunny and everything, so it kind of tricked me there. But it's always like that. Although I don't mind the rain, but that's how I moved. I just moved for an internship, and I even had my return ticket sorted. Just never boarded that return flight. And they kind of like started in a startup that was doing all of these crazy projects. Like I've done crazy projects all around Asia, Africa, Middle East, even like Libya right after the war. So I got a lot of experience, and it was all like very scrapey, and it was pre-GDPR as well back then. So that's how I kind of like got into marketing and stayed in it as well.
It's always interesting to hear. I think there's a very broad type of backgrounds and profiles, and it's something that's changed a lot. Even when you mentioned, say, 10, 15 years ago, it's a very different now than what it was 10 or 15 years ago. But how about B2B then? Like currently you're in Logically, and before that you were in Strategic ABM as well that you mentioned. What do you see that's changing in the last number of years?
Now, it obviously could be also my perspective of seeing the way I see things as I evolve in my career, but I think that it's becoming more strategic and more targeted. Like B2B used to be very spray and pray approach in the past, like when I was originally starting. And in the past few years, I've observed more like granular detail to who we are targeting, like more defined ICPs, more like niche solutions as well. So I think that there is like a lot of move towards niche rather than like, do it all solutions. So that's kind of like the biggest thing I observed outside of AI, obviously.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense as well, I think, especially because it's such a broad sector in terms of B2B, like knowing who the ICP is. And it's, in a lot of cases, it's a few people are the ICPs in the buying group. It can be anything from 6 or 12 or more. So it's always interesting to kind of see like what from different people's perspectives of like what's changed. But I think, yeah, niching down seems to be where you get a lot more precision and impact as well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And Logically then, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about in terms of like how you think about, you head up growth there, and how you think about like in terms of like go to market, in terms of people that head up growth, depending on obviously the role and the sector that they're in B2B, but that's definitely evolving as well now. Like there's a new kind of profile around GTM engineers and how this kind of play is coming out in terms of the whole ad stack of like go to market. What are you seeing there? Do you think that's kind of different over the last few years?
So I think like we were just discussing about like perspectives, like, and
Yeah.
like how everyone is considering growth differently. I think that there is this change I'm seeing in B2B startups that they are like the head of marketing is slowly becoming the head of growth. Essentially, this is because growth is more life cycle and more like breaking silos between departments and kind of like all the way from like feeding back to product features and generating leads, demand, and like it's kind of like making sense for the different stakeholders as well within the organization. Like the finance person will always see you as like, this is the person that is generating leads. Kind of. This is the value that you bring to them. While the engineering team will see you as like, this is the person that is giving us insights about the
Mm.
customers, about the
Yeah.
prospects,
Yeah.
together with the sales team. Well, the sales team is also seeing you as the person that is supporting them with the sales pitches, with all of their demand generation, with kind of like giving them signals of like informing the strategy of where we go, how we go about it, what we should be saying. So it's kind of like this is what I've observed, and this is the big difference between agency as well. Like in every company has silos. So it's kind of like my role is kind of like breaking these silos. Sometimes it's like just hitting your head on a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, I think, for a lot of companies, and the bigger the organization is as well, the more the challenge is because it requires a lot more to kind of get movement and get alignment and stuff. But what have you seen in terms of like kind of even ways of breaking down those silos? Anything you've seen in terms of like operations that help in order to break down the silos?
I might sound like a broken record to some, but I think empathy is what's making the biggest difference because it's understanding, like, especially marketing is like something that we are quite strong in, like understanding how to speak to every person to just give them the context because most of the time we just like focus on all of these amazing marketing abbreviations we have and like other departments don't understand us and same with other departments, like a lot of engineers are hitting me with abbreviations. I have no idea what they're talking
Yeah.
about. Kind of like sometimes being the silly one, asking the stupid questions and saying, what's that? Then from the other side, also like over communicating and explaining in simple terms to every individual that you are working with what you are trying to achieve. So kind of like using the usual influencing frameworks of like,
Yeah.
why we're doing what we're doing, by when we need to do. So it's a lot about being vocal, I suppose, and at
Yeah.
the same time like having empathy, understanding where people are coming from to
Yeah.
to influence them appropriately.
Yeah. I think as well from what you're saying as well about empathy, I think the other thing, what you see a lot is like even clarity as well of every different department has their own terminology and their own ways. And we just make the assumption in marketing that, everybody understands what an MQL and an SQL and stuff this is. But if you speak to someone in finance, unless it's like something that they regularly see, if it doesn't make sense to people and they continue with the language, it's harder to get them in board and involved as well. So I think having some kind of standardized, I suppose, trying to move marketing maybe to more business metrics versus then it's a tricky one. It's definitely tricky to kind of get it implemented. But I definitely agree with you in terms of being empathetic of like trying to see things from other people's perspective of like how they perceive it from the outside.
Yeah, it makes a very big difference.
Yeah. And then in terms of measurement, because that's always a big one, especially in B2B, like I don't know, in your case, what kind of sales cycles do you normally see? Is it like kind of 6 months or more or less than that? Or
Depending on the level of the deal, and we work across government and enterprise as well. So, and I've worked a lot across government and enterprise in the past. So, kind of like I've worked mostly like average sales cycles were like 18 months. Sometimes
yeah,
like here you can drop it up until like, 3 months for just some smaller subscriptions. But That's kind of like 3 months is the minimum. And this
Yeah.
is probably because like the sales cycle started before you were aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the thing. That's an interesting point that you make, actually, in terms of that the sales cycle starts before you were aware of it. How do you see, like, when you're looking at activity like that in terms of measurement and content and stuff like that? There was one very interesting graph that you were probably around for in your previous company where you worked strategic ABM. You probably have seen this slide. I've actually showed it to, I teach in a university part time, and I've showed it to students there as well around the dark funnel. I think you know already the slide that I'm on about, but I'd be interested to see, how do you see that playing into the overall marketing mix in terms of, because you kind of see, you measure the SEO and paid social, SEM, and so on. But there's a big element of, especially in B2B, a big element of like dark, that it's very hard to measure, but it has an impact if you just don't do those activities. And then when you do them, you can see the impact 3-6 months down the line. But I'm just curious to see how you see that playing out now where you are in terms of those kind of activities.
Yeah, so basically I'm always considering the dark funnel in everything I do. And I'm also explaining it to all of my stakeholders so that they are aware, because they're all buying in that way. No one is just buying like, from like following all of these UTM codes that
Yeah.
we are tracking attribution to. So that's one thing. And then from the other side, I'm just using it to my advantage. Essentially, like I purposely get people down a rabbit hole as part of the dark funnel with the content that we are creating. I know that these people are not going to go to the landing page sending originally. So what I care about is them consuming the content, and the content is super targeted on them so that they want to interact, they want to read more, they want to share it, and etc. So I basically like use it to my advantage. And thankfully, I have educated enough my stakeholders in them not expecting leads from each one of them.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
part of the journey that we are creating for the personas that we have in every market.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How do you look at the content like that then in terms of the formats that you put it through? Like what do you find is most effective? Is it kind of blog posts still very targeted with relevant content, or is it more kind of like audio, even like podcasts or stuff like that? Or what have you seen that's kind of worked well for you?
It depends on the stage. And it depends on the segment. So, for example, like our government segments react much better to case studies, and all of the carousels and etc. on LinkedIn work quite well in that respect. While they're like, from like a more awareness perspective, like the podcast is working better because it's kind of like more strategic thought leadership and not even so tied to our company even. So I just play with different things, like, and then we have also events and presentations at events again, like that are helping like more the education and influence stage. Yeah.
No, it's really interesting. I think now, from even in the last 6 months, I don't know if you see this as well, but I think there's been a really big emphasis on connecting in person in real life. Are you seeing the same with people? Like, even I found what we've ran before when I was in LinkedIn was these kind of very targeted meetings or dinners for people where they meet other peers. So whether that's someone at like kind of VP level or head of or whatever it may be, and it's someone that's maybe not a direct competitor, but someone that's in a similar field, and you kind of have like somebody hosting the dinner and there's certain topics. It's relatively informal, but it's just the idea of putting people together that have maybe similar challenges, and that there's a huge value from that. That's one example, but I just wondered, from events and kind of the type of events you do, what do you see that's been most effective for your team?
Yeah, to be honest with you, like from my side, like exhibitions and etc., especially in sectors where we are just developing and like now we are increasing our reputation in them. But from my perspective as well, the vendors that I buy from is the ones that I have attended their events, I have attended product launches, and I have actually networked with peers at these events. And even though it was like a product launch event, I learned so many things from peers and the ways that they are solving various problems that I have as well, that it was like, for me, it was really engaging. So I, that's kind of like how I buy as well. It's like I might have like, I might be connected with someone on LinkedIn and see their content, but then like when they send me an event invitation and I attend, like it's a completely new level to our um, relationship building.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess as well, if people are solving for different problems or challenges, if you get a recommended about a tool or something like that, or even a community or something like where it may be, I think you're much more likely to 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 take that recommendation versus just researching online yourself. At least I am anyway.
Yes, yes, definitely. And plus, like with everything, with all of the misinformation that is going about, it's very difficult to just trust whatever you see online
Yeah,
and exists. And I know I have fallen into some traps just by checking features lists online and that's it, and not speaking with people that would
yeah,
actually tell me that this is just a tick box feature.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's not until you use certain tools for like a month that you kind of see, okay, yeah, it's good, but it doesn't do everything that it's kind of justifying that it does. I think it's a lot of the case in many cases. But yeah, in terms of events then, for you, any particular highlight events that you find really good across Europe, whether it may be in London or anything that highlights that you find really good in the industry of B2B?
Like I attended in June the Go to Market Summit and it was amazing. Like all of the peers that I met there,
Yeah.
it was
Was
great.
that in London, was it?
Yeah, in London, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we'll put a link to it in the show notes as well. I think for anyone listening, it can be quite interesting.
Yeah, so this is I think from the Go to Market Alliance. Yeah, so it's great, totally recommend it. Um then I'm just like it's such a hybrid for me events between like where we are targeting our personas and the ones that I attend for my personal development.
Yeah,
I'm attending also a couple that I'm invited by vendors, like I network with peers there. But this is probably the only one that I just attended in person.
yeah. Where in London is the GTM one?
I think it was. I'm just trying to remember now. I remember there were a couple of partner events. I think it was somewhere central in West End.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, because I think they have SaaStack, don't they? In not SaaStack, the other one, SaaStar, I think, is on in December. I don't know if you've been to that one. They have it in either in the US and then they have it in Barcelona, but now they have it in London in December, I think, or the end of November, which is quite a good one as well. But I think it's like what you say. I find that you don't really know if it's good or if it's not until you attend at least 1 year and kind of have a plan of like, okay, who I want to meet and what talks I want to see and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely great to see that kind of in-person events are back, definitely with a bang. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about, I know we're like only a few minutes and we haven't really talked about AI, but I suppose we can't be in tech and not bring up the word AI.
Yeah.
But how as a marketer and as head of demand gen, but go to market or head of go to market as well, obviously, how are you looking at AI in terms of efficiencies? What do you think it's like good for, but what do you think are the big limitations as well?
That's a big topic. So I think that it's good with helping you with progressing quickly and kind of like speed to market in low risk environments. So you're like I wouldn't use for now at least from what I've seen so far an AI agent to just send messages for me to my market. I think that I would be burning my total addressable market. So I think that it's really helpful with just like some standard workflows that you have that you are doing manually. It's really helpful with just integrating all of this and then them run automatically for like account insights, market insights, and etc. As long as you have your foundations right. So I think that it's quite good from a desktop research replacement
Yeah,
perspective. And there are also some really good niche tools that exist that are AI that are like great from like a go-to-market perspective, like from messaging, personalized to the individual on LinkedIn. And these are like great. Like I've seen the development these guys are doing. And this is why I trust them as well. That
yeah,
is going to burn my market. And I think that I have been an avid user of AI for the past 2 years, and I just came back from maternity, and this whole AI boom was happening, and I was like, oh my, I was left behind, and I just started fully using it. And recently, I started discovering how, like, with AI, we usually are way more like receptive of the work that we're doing with AI that is not in an area that we have expertise in. So usually, like, if I'm a generalist marketer and I wanted to do like just SEO, I would use AI and I wouldn't know like where it's correct or where it's not.
Yeah.
And I would be like, oh, wow, it's doing amazing work. And then you realize a couple of months later, actually, it wasn't that amazing, the work.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wrote,
It's a very good point, actually.
consulted someone. Yeah, so that's why I'm very reserved in the way that I'm talking about AI. There is a lot of scaremongering as well about AI in terms of like, oh, you're missing out on that. Like there is the CEO that has like 40 agents and these are like his
Yeah.
whole company. I honestly can't, like, based on what I have seen, and my husband is also a software engineer,
Yeah.
and he's using a lot AI, and he has been using like AI methodologies before AI even became a thing. And I just can't believe some of the stories.
Yeah. And what's his opinion in terms of, does he kind of think that there's more hype than the practical implementations, or is it actually, because you hear like even some of the apps and stuff like this, like with, crazy valuations and what they can do. And I'm not a software engineer, but from what I've checked and what I've tried myself, it gets you there. Like even some of these like agents like Lovable and Replit and some of these, and you can do little projects, but then I find it gets about 75 to 80% of the job done. But then no matter how many prompts I put in, it doesn't give me the completed output of what I want. And so that's why I kind of think that initially I was of the opinion of like, okay, we can automate everything and this is great. And I need to train and I need to do this. But now I can kind of see that you still need someone with a technical engineering background to oversee exactly how this works and how it's actually effective. What's your husband's take on it from an engineering point of view?
Yeah, definitely. Like there are a lot of caveats in the use of AI in the way that it works. I say here, like there were a lot of automated workflows. Like for example, like a few years ago, I was trying to find a driving test in
Yeah.
the UK. It was right after COVID. It was a nightmare. It was impossible. So he built for me a bot that was scanning just to find like a slot, and then when it would find something, it would just notify me so that I go and book it.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of like workflows I'm talking about. Some of them, like especially where he has been telling me also like the biggest value is essentially in all of the integrations between the tools. This is the biggest difference because this whole AI boom started, and now more companies are prioritizing being AI friendly and like working together with other tools that they wouldn't in the past, because now they're afraid they're going to be left behind and users will move away to the next big thing. So they are prioritizing that, and then essentially all of the solutions work much better together. In the past, like if we didn't have AI, you would be able to do some of this stuff, but it wouldn't be that seamless. You would definitely need an engineer to integrate things like APIs and etc.
Yeah. It's like kind of like Zapier or something like that. Like if you don't have it connected into a workflow, it might save you time, but then you have to go and try and do workarounds and stuff. It's not always the most efficient. Just on that point, actually, because with a lot of companies now that we see in the last, say, 18 months that have, they've scaled, like some of the AI companies, they've scaled a huge amount. But one of the interesting things, and it's been around for a while, but I think there's a big emphasis now on this kind of like building in public phenomena and having like kind of say C-suite and founder led, being very active and kind of being very kind of at the front and like kind of a face of the brand and stuff. How are you seeing that from your perspective? And do you see it as being effective of like kind of driving pipeline and driving leads and stuff like that with your organization?
So it depends a lot on the founder and whether we have gone through phases with Logically from that perspective, and we are also in a tricky space because the company started in mis and disinformation tracking, so there are a lot of risks
Yeah. Yeah.
in that,
Yeah.
like death threats and etc. So this goes exactly like the other way,
Wow.
like pipeline generation. So it depends a lot. I think that it's not so much about the founder, it's more about your subject matter experts
Yeah. Yeah.
building in public. And this is what I'm seeing also as a customer and what I'm seeing within the business. So when it's the subject matter expert, they already have a circle, they already have all of the connections. And it's kind of like you just augment it content, and they are even like proactive themselves instead of like pushing a founder that is like running the whole
Yeah.
business, just trying to post. I know that there are like a lot of people that will think it's not working like that and you can still do it, but I think that you need to work to each person's strengths, and with subject matter experts, it's much easier to work with them as like, especially the ones that are coming naturally as thought leaders. I was listening to one of your podcasts yesterday. I think it was the lady from Semras.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
it- Yeah, Olga. Yeah. So she was explaining it very accurately. Like you have your influencers, you have your thought leaders, then you have the rest of the company. So I think that if your founder is not an influencer, like it's very hard to make him an influencer,
Yeah.
even if they send you these voice notes for you to make content on the back of.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's very true. I think it's kind of, there has to be, I suppose, an eagerness for them to kind of see where the value is versus you trying to extract it in terms of like, if you have a subject matter expert and they're really good at aligning with the category entry point or the subject in question and so on, that's probably much more effective than just trying to get somebody from the C-suite just because they're in the C-suite, but like they're not really comfortable talking on camera, or they don't really want their image in public, or whatever it may be. I think it depends on every company of how they approach it. But I was just curious to see from what you see, and it's an interesting one about the subject matter experts. I think in SEMrush as well, they had an interesting approach from like probably maybe 10 or 12 years ago when they started to scale a lot, where they started working with creators in the space that were using their tool, but then enabling them even then to meet other creators and how they can grow and all as well. So it's a really interesting space, I think, how different companies approach it though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and for me, like the head of enterprise innovation at Zapier is like my favorite. It's like the example I always send to people, like the SMEs that I want to start being more active and present their thoughts publicly. And then like the founder of Twain is amazing because he kind of builds in public, and he's like, but he's not just building in public, he's also integrating like in person meetings. Like he would sit with me like for an hour just to discuss like my problems and my strategy and etc., without any mention of his product at all.
Yeah, yeah, which is really interesting to do. Can you repeat the name of that company that you said as well? Twain, was it?
Yes, Twain.
Yeah, yeah. And are they based in the UK?
No, I think he's based in Germany. His
Okay,
name is Mo, and he's based in Germany. So Twain is essentially like a personalization copywriter.
okay,
Yeah.
right, right. We can put it in the show notes as well for people to check it out. This was really interesting. I just had one final question then. What's your predictions for the future, Xenia, in terms of B2B? Where do you see it going, and where do you see the role of a marketer kind of evolving over the next few years in B2B?
I think that skills wise, marketers will have to evolve a lot. So there are going to be the various soft skills and commercial skills that we already had. We will still need them. But I think that we need to be way more tech savvy than we are. And a lot of marketers didn't need to be tech savvy up until now. So I would say that this is one of the key things that will change with AI. One of the big things with AI and the reasons why, for example, like Lovable, like might not be used by everyone, or like other AI tools, is because you need to change your whole workflow to adapt to Lovable. Like I use Lovable for a presentation. No, it was actually Gamma
Yep.
AI
Yeah, I
presentation.
know it as well. Yeah.
And I spent like half an hour on Gamma, like preparing everything. And then eventually like my workflow wasn't working with Gamma. And then eventually like I spent 3 hours polishing the slides. I eventually like I would have done it much sooner, much faster on my own. And it's kind of like eventually like the AI ended up doing the fun stuff and they ended up doing the admin.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you make, because it seems like that there's this promise there, but then when you go to the reality, that we're not there with the reality just yet, but you get kind of nearly tricked into thinking that this is going to save you loads of time. Not with all AI tools, but then when you want to get that extra 20% done to get it finished and looking good, for whatever reason, it's just there's a limitation, and that's my challenge with some AI tools at the moment.
Yeah, like honestly, like sometimes it's like eventually they do the fun stuff and you do all of the admin.
Yeah, yeah.
The polishing, the bullet point removing there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's. I guess though that'll probably improve over time, and it will. But it's one of those things that's kind of a frustration of mine at the moment as well. Any exciting AI tools that you're using that you find that are actually effective?
So Twain is amazing, and I really like essentially what these guys are doing. Like one of their recent features is they personalize, like let's say someone wants to message you and they see where you have been working in the past, and then essentially like they also see what was happening in the business that was relevant to the solution that they're trying to sell you. So they have this full context of where you have been during what time, and then they personalize it to you, which is great. I don't think
Yeah,
that like human beings would be able to do personalization
yeah,
like, so this is why it's amazing. And then the Zapier agents are also great for small companies. That's like because they integrate like I think the whole universe.
yeah, yeah. No, it's really good. They're really really useful. Zapier, once you can get it set up to your workflows and stuff, it saves so much time.
Yeah. And then I also like using some of the native, like some AI tools that were built within platforms that we were using already. So for example, in Canva, like the video editors,
Yeah,
etc. Now you can create with prompts, just some video screens, because like it's not just whatever you could find in the footage library. You can create something on your own. So that's great. And I mean, that is obviously outside of all of, I think most people are now doing custom GBTs and etc.
yeah.
I still haven't trusted GBT to connect to my files.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the things I think, like what we mentioned off air about kind of the security aspect and stuff as well of like kind of the GBT. I think there's definitely, I find projects really good on GBT, but then there's some limitations as well. You can see how it can hallucinate quite a lot. It can like
Yes.
tell you something really, really positive all the time. And then when you check the sources with the deep research, sometimes it sends you to these 404 pages. That's why I don't trust it 100%, but it is useful for a lot of things, I think.
Yeah, like some of our team members in February were actually highlighting because we had a big fact checking division at Logically.
Yeah.
So they highlighted that we have that it's about 45% that is incorrect in the news summaries,
Wow.
GBTs of
Yeah.
like LGBT. So you definitely can't trust it. That's why
Yeah.
I'm saying like it's good for low risk environments.
Yeah. 45%. That's really interesting stat. So nearly like, yeah, and if you link that to the prompts, to the calls in the data centers and so on, like that's pretty incredible, the hallucination level.
Yeah. One thing that I love, for example, using Perplexity logically as well, because at logically we have this tool that is essentially like gathering all of the social media data, and it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like media monitoring, but also like threat intelligence. So you have all of these narratives that show up. So it's very good for like showing up like what's actually being said about any topic. So I
Yeah.
use that, and then I use also Perplexity. I love like scanning what Reddit users are saying on specific topics, like for example about our competitors, like specific features. So that's usually like for account insights, where it's just like for just some initial like personalization on slides, it's really helpful. And that's like one of the first things that I'm automating like with AI.
Yeah. 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 No, I think in Reddit has so much with the different themes and chats and stuff like that. There's really, I think LinkedIn in some senses are trying to go in that direction. That's my hypothesis of the comments now being like where the conversation is happening on LinkedIn, and they want to try and kind of make that kind of like, it's not like that posts are getting a huge amount of reach now, but if it has high value content and there's a conversations in the comments and stuff like that, obviously the formatting is different, but I think that's where they're trying to go in terms of Reddit. It's still probably not early days, but it's still something I think has maybe a long way to go, but there's a huge amount of valuable information, I think, in Reddit and some of the communities there.
Yeah. And however, it's very interesting how AI is going to impact that, because now that Reddit is appearing in so many AI citations,
Yeah.
everyone is trying to influence Reddit.
Yeah.
If you have been an avid Reddit user, you know how hard is that. But there
Yeah.
are like so many companies that are making an effort of like, I've been reading a post yesterday where someone was like, they spent the last quarter just try like focusing on three specific content areas that they were trying to influence on Reddit. And like for me, Reddit has been amazing. Like, I had my own business as well in the past, so I learned so many things about things I had absolutely no idea
Yeah.
initially, like from Reddit, from various scrapey marketing or scrapey business
Yeah.
channels.
No, it's really good. There's a huge amount of information there that I think is really good. Xenia, it was a pleasure talking with you. Thanks very much for joining us on the show. If anyone wants to find you, connect with you, see your content, where are you most active?
Just LinkedIn. That's my
LinkedIn.
channel.
Great. Thanks again, Xenia. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Likewise.